Beautiful. There you are.
Hi,
Beautiful.
how are you?
How are you?
I'm okay. Nice to meet you finally.
Yes, so great to meet you. This is going to be wonderful. Wonderful,
I hope
wonderful.
so too. I
Yes,
hope so. Yeah.
absolutely. So I have this recording so that you'll be able to watch it again.
Okay.
And let's work on diving right into some of the questions
Okay.
and helping you. So so is this going to be on Zoom when they interview you?
I don't think so. They haven't mentioned anything. They just said it'll be over the phone.
Okay, so just phone, so it'll be your voice. Okay,
Right.
wonderful. So perfect. So the FBI, when they hire, they are really looking for leaders, and so that is one of your goals. Your mission is to help them see the leadership quality in you, but also to see they want people who really are dedicated and invested in the organization. So have you been on their website to learn about their history and everything like that?
Not yet, but I'm hoping to, read about them this weekend.
You must, because they will ask you what you know about how the FBI came into being historically and stuff. So
they need to, okay, they're gonna,
yes. So make sure you know exactly, they want aficionados, okay? So make sure that you do that and you get that history down, okay?
Okay.
And then we're going to play with some of the questions that they typically. I have not been interviewed by them, but supposedly these are some of the questions, okay? So so let's play with them. Just a second. Let me get in here. Okay. So they're wanting to see that you are the type of leader that people would want to follow, and that they can ultimately craft into someone who would be very promotable, right? Okay. So so they typically will ask you something even as blunt as saying, tell me about your leadership qualities, right? So how would you, let's start by, how would you respond to that right now?
Tell me about leadership qualities. I believe to be an effective leader, communication is the key. You have to communicate with your subordinates.
Oh, okay. So let's play with that a little bit. Okay. First of all, you're going to want to take ownership. You're going to make statements not like, I believe you have to. I believe when I do this, or even if there's an example, a story of when you have had to be a leader, right? So practice playing with some of the words that, like, what kind of qualities do you think leaders have, for example?
Qualities.
So some could be, I mean, and I will actually give you some of the power. I have a whole sheet of some power words, right? But there are words like confident,
integrity.
I'm sorry, what?
Integrity.
Yes, absolutely. Charismatic, innovative, visionary, right? There are these kind of these kind of words. So when you have, tell us about your leadership quality. So it could be something like starting, and by the way, if you need a moment to get your thoughts together rather than going, if you can do something like, that's a great question, or I'm glad you asked that question, or that's a great question. Leadership qualities are so important. So and you can start by, as a leader, I cultivate a leadership style that is very visionary leadership. I believe in that there are three things that are really important when you're a leader. And one, it's that people feel like you're hearing them, people feel like you're understanding them, and people feel like you're considering that what they say matters. Even when you don't agree with them, I find that when people feel respected that way, that then you're open to what comes into the open is not necessarily the differences, but where you are on the same page and how you can get to a much stronger place. So as a leader, I am supportive. I can be firm when I need to be firm, but I'm knowledgeable, I'm adaptable, I'm open. And I desire as a leader to be known as someone who helps people see potential in themselves that they may not even see at the moment, right? So you see how you're setting something up like that?
I see.
Yes. So let's give it a whirl. Let's give it a whirl. So I am just asking you, tell me about your leadership qualities.
Leadership qualities.
And you're going to have this recording to be able to practice with over the weekend.
All right, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Thank God. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because I realize at first it's like, it's a lot, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when they ask me the qualities, do I have to explain them too? Like, I believe, like, like visionary, do I have to give them like an explanation too, to why I think that, or?
You can, if you want, if you feel that that's important, if that gives an insight. So, and it's a great, a great trick is to have established how you're going to kind of begin something like that.
Right.
So,
Okay.
like, as a leader, as a leader, or think of leadership. I mean, if you can bring it down to three qualities, there are a lot of, so for example, as someone who prides himself on being a great leader, I believe that there are a lot of qualities that a great leader has. But I believe that there are three qualities that are the most important qualities that a leader can have. One is to be a visionary, to be able to see beyond the current problem. So it's seen that way. It's a quick little explanation, and just in that,
Right.
a visionary, to see beyond the current problem, should be inspirational, meaning to help people on his team to see potential within themselves that they might not have seen previously, and to be open to possibilities, to new ideas, to better systems. You see how that's really going that direction?
Right. I see.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so when you have it organized like that, so be thinking of, three qualities that you really want to emphasize.
Okay.
And clearly you can acknowledge, a great leader has many qualities. However, I believe that a great leader has these three qualities, right?
Right.
That way you're not saying these are the only qualities a leader had, but it also means, I know there are more, but I don't want to give you a whole list here. As a leader, I'm going to cut to the most important ones, right? Right?
Okay. Right.
Let me check. I want to check something on, hold on. I'm going to go online for one moment. I want to check FBI mission statement. Curious if they have one. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Mission and priorities. Oh, let's see. Yep. Okay. Just a second. I'm letting it load for a minute. I'm going to come get you. So you
Okay.
can look at this too. Screen share. Okay. Organization, mission and functions manual, federal. Okay. Here's the history. Organization chart text version, right? In 1908, Attorney General, blah, 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 who established it. So the mission of the FBI is to protect and defend the United States against terrorist and foreign intelligence threats, to uphold and enforce the criminal laws of the United States, and to provide leadership and criminal justice services to federal, state, and municipal and international agencies and partners, and to perform these responsibilities in a manner that is responsive to the needs of the public and is faithful to the Constitution of the United States. Major priorities are, so combat public corruption at all levels, protect civil rights, combat. So all this is a page. In fact, hold on. I'm gonna text this to you.
Okay. Should I like tell them all of that, or just, you know,
So
if they
no,
ask?
no. What you're gonna want to know this first paragraph.
Okay.
Right? You're gonna want to know that.
Okay.
You're going to want to know that, but you are going to want to really know this in any time that you can refer to some of this, or I'm just looking here to address international criminal organization, establish an quality outreach program, conduct, establishing approaches to review and effectively and appropriately communicate and disclose on the mission, accomplishments, operations, and values to Congress. Yeah. So just to really have a feel for the scope of what they do, right?
Okay.
So so that's great. Now let's go and play with another question. So, and it's going to be really a great idea for you to actually really kind of rehearse these things, but you're definitely going to need to know the history. Okay.
Okay.
So do not be taken aback, but they will ask you, have you ever stolen anything? Because they need to know that they trust you, and you need to be honest. So even if it was like when you were 5 years old and you stole something, you're going to want to say something like, actually, as a matter of fact, I did take a piece of gum when I was a child. I took a piece of gum from a store, and I felt so guilty. I hated that feeling I felt so guilty that I vowed that I would never, ever do it again. My integrity, I believe that integrity is one of the most important parts of who we are and how we identify ourselves. And that's something that I would never want to give up. That's a quality that I would want to uphold and display, right? So you get where this is coming from?
Right. Yes.
Right. So, so give it a whirl. So have you ever stolen anything?
Well, Yes, I did steal $5 from my brother's pants without getting his permission because as a child, I wanted this comic book, and I took $5 without asking him, which I felt bad afterwards. But I did come up, honestly, I did tell him afterwards, and he forgave me. He said, "Just make sure you don't do it again."
Yes. Okay. So let's turn this into something that is more powerful for you.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it would be, first of all, it's not catching you by surprise. I mean, you're going to go in there like a leader. You own who you are, and you own that is not stealing $5 does not make you a dishonest bad person. It
Right.
makes by owning up that you did that makes you a high integrity person.
Okay. Right.
So so when they ask that question, you can confidently reply that actually I have stolen something when I was however old you were. And it was one of the and it was one of it brought me such shame that it was an impactful. I wanted a comic book so badly that I thought that I couldn't resist taking $5 from my brother's pants. So I got the comic book, but I felt so bad and so dishonest that I told my brother about it. And fortunately, he forgave me and said, never do it again. And to this day, I guard my integrity because I felt the shame of when I gave it away, when I lost it. And to me, especially a leader has to have their integrity. If a leader doesn't have their integrity, they don't have anything, right?
Right. And if you haven't stolen anything,
if you haven't stolen anything, then you would still basically say the same thing. You would say, fortunately, I'm proud to say that I have not. Ever since I was a child, integrity has been something that I have protected and guarded. I believe that my integrity is who I am. And I believe it's, as a leader, if you give up if you compromise your integrity, then you've lost your trustworthiness, and that is you've lost your identity, your self-worth. So no, I have never stolen anything, and I don't think that I ever could.
okay.
Right.
Right.
So you're getting your perspective through it. You're more than yes knowing it. Yes, I stole here. Here's the thing. Okay, so what? Right. So it's like, I mean, that's your invitation to talk about integrity and honesty and trust, right? You have to be able to, I want people to be able to trust me. That's one of the biggest things that I value as a leader. I want my team to trust me. And the moment I start compromising my integrity, I lose their trust, and it'll be impossible to get it back.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So give me one more run at that question.
Okay. Let's say, for example, I have, so we'll just go with that.
Okay. Well, so what's the truth? Because they want to know the truth. Have you ever?
No, I haven't. And I think I'm one of those lucky persons because I was always brought up with values and integrity. And as my father told me, I got that from him, that never ever, whatever company or agency I work for, when I get into college and, agency, they're going to want to trust me, and they're going to want to make sure that I have that integrity and honesty. So that's why, son, never do anything bad or illegal in your life.
Beautiful. And if it is true, you can add to what you just said. I love that you brought your father into it. And if it is true, you can say, since I was a young child, or since I was a young man, I knew that more than anything, I wanted to go into law enforcement. And my dream was ultimately to be part of an organization like the FBI. And I know that trust is paramount. Trust is important. You can't, I could not achieve my dreams if I didn't protect my trust. So no, I have never stolen anything. And I can proudly tell you that I am absolutely positive I never will.
Right. Okay.
Right. So next question. The FBI hires less than 5% of our applicants. Why should we choose you?
Oh, okay. Um, well, I believe I have the educational background, and I'm bilingual. I speak a second language, which I believe will help me in this position.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there for one thing. So this is a perfect example. So when you are, so the question is, why should the FBI hire you, right? So what you're doing is transferring the focus onto you. The question is about is the FBI organization themselves. So, it would end up looking more like, instead of saying, I wish I could go back and hear exactly what you say. If you want it to say something like, why should we choose you? So it would be something like what I
like I have the educational background.
Well, yes, but it's more in the context of them. It's more like the FBI. The FBI being part of the. Okay, here we go. Being part of the FBI, or even from before this interview, I really took some time taking a look at the specific requirements that, whatever that page is called, of the FBI. And the FBI needs leaders who are dynamic, who are trustworthy, who have the exemplary training, which I think you will see from my resume that I have a solid background in security and leadership. I fortunately did very, very well in school. So I have a consistent history of doing the right thing, being tenacious in tough situations. And at the same time, I have the diversity of being bilingual. So I believe that I bring not only the qualifications, which you can see on my resume, I bring the personal, skills, such as, integrity and vision, the visionary aspects, but I also bring the passion to it. I'm passionate about creating a safe environment and protecting, you know, da, 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 da. Do you see how it's more like, instead of couching it in it's the, you know, the FBI needs this, the FBI demands this, the FBI, you know, being a leader, being part of the, I believe that being part of the FBI, you know, clearly is about leadership. It's the protecting the demands trust and this. So I believe I bring not only the skills, but I bring the passion and the personal qualities that will make me an exemplary leader and help me to help the FBI continue to be one of the most highly respected enforcement agencies in the world, that kind of thing, right?
Okay. And right. And the other thing is, how would I word it if, let's say, you know, I've over, you know, how should I say it? How would I word it? Let's say, for example, like, if I tell them that, you know, ever since I started working, ever since I was in college, and when I started working until now, I've never been written up, not even once. There was no action taken against me ever.
Right.
And I believe that's a strong quality in a person.
Yes. Yes.
How would I word that into, like, you know, into
Sure.
something solid?
Sure. Um, so, um, so if so the FBI hires less than 5% of applicants, why should we choose you? So, why I'm sitting here, precisely why I'm sitting here, is because the FBI is so selective. And one thing that I am really proud to bring to the table and be sitting here is that you can see from my resume that I have the skills. You can see that I have the drive, but what maybe you can't see is that I have the passion for absolutely always bringing my best to whatever I do. And I'm very proud to share that from the moment that I entered this field, I have never been written up, not even once. And I take pride in that. I bring my leadership, I bring all my skills, I give 1,000%, and I believe that the FBI, I would love for you know, I believe that that's why the FBI should select me as one of the 5% of our applicants, right? I believe with me, you're receiving you know, a high achiever who takes pride in everything they do and consistently delivers at the highest level, something like that.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So there are going to be some questions like, how do you keep your knowledge? How do you keep your knowledge current? So there are constantly changes. There are constantly changes in law enforcement. How do you stay current?
I read articles. I read the news. I read information on technology because it's changing every single day. So
Okay.
um, hmm.
So So you're going to want to, you're going to want to turn around and, make sure that you have a good foundation, right? For kind of look, I mean, it might even be worth searching the best ways to stay current, right? So, yeah, so you're going to want to do something like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. So, great. Let me check something else out here. See, just a minute. Let me see. I just want to check something out. Yeah, so let's see. I'm just checking here a little bit to see if there are some idiosyncrasies that you'll want to be prepared for.
Okay.
It does look like if you can't answer the question right away, that they'll come back to that question. Do you know, are you being interviewed to be part of the professional staff, or are you being interviewed for special agents?
It's for the FBI police officer.
Okay. Okay. Great. Let's see. Let's see. So yeah. So let's see. Just a minute. I just wanted to. Yeah. So they definitely are going to have some situational sort of questions.
Right.
Like, what would you do in this sort of situation? Just a second. Hold on. So for example, let's play with some situational sort of things. Their core competencies here, the Federal Bureau of Investigation core competencies are the category of knowledge, skills, and ability of all FBI employees are expected to cultivate and use in their work. Behaviors and skills. Liaise, which is to establish contacts and interact effectively with federal, state, and local agencies, governments, and other organizations. Demonstrate political savvy. So navigate effectively within the organization's social, political, and technological systems. Show respect, interact with others in a courteous manner, display composure with others, firmly maintain position without becoming defensive, and confront others with tact. Do you catch the nuance on that, right? So they may challenge you a little bit, but they're looking for courtesy on your part, which doesn't look like you'd have any problem with that. Display composure with others and firmly maintain your position without becoming defensive, and confront others with tact. Okay, and then the last one is share information, express yourself concisely and clearly, use appropriate tone in conversation, present information in a well-organized manner, and provide sufficient detail to ensure communication is understood. write in a clear, concise manner appropriate for the audience, and proactively identify who needs information and share it when appropriate. So collaboration is a big thing for them. So establish contacts and interact effectively. Communication, to express thoughts and ideas clearly, concisely, persuasively, and effectively, both orally and in writing. Interpret and understand verbal or written communications. Tailor the communication of the experience, exposure, or expertise. So you have to be able to persuade, to listen and interpret, to speak clearly, to write clearly. They're also looking for flexibility and adaptability, the ability to adapt and the ability to manage change. And then initiative, be proactive, develop self, follow through. Interpersonal ability is to, establish a rapport with people, be sensitive to differences, resolve and manage conflict, work with others. Leadership. So I'm going to send you this. I'm going to send you this link. So you really probably should familiarize yourself with that. I'm not saying you have to, memorize it. Not at all. But you want to be aware of the qualities that they're looking for. So for example, a situational sort of thing. So they may say something like, tell me about a time when you had to deal with a difficult colleague, where someone, and they might set the stage, or where you had to deal with a disruption at one of your jobs. Tell me about that situation and how you handled it.
Okay. But sometimes you have to think about it, it's like.
Well, so here's the thing. So here's the strategy. The strategy, I mean, it's very likely they are going to ask you this type of question. So that's why you've done a smart thing by setting this up, because this gives you a chance to think about it. So for example, notice how, I'm going to make something up, but what you're doing is you've got some of these answers pretty prepared. I don't mean memorized, but you know what you're going to say, and you've practiced saying some of these things, like leadership. You're really sure they're going to say that, so you're going to want to work and get that to a point where you feel confident. Okay, and then you're listening for questions where these answers fit. So, so remember you asked me a little bit ago how I would, when we were talking about stealing, how would you reply to this if you've never stolen? Well, it was pretty close to the same answer, wasn't it? I just shifted it a little bit, because what I really wanted to talk about was integrity, right? That question is about trust and integrity. It's not about actually stealing. It's about trust and integrity. So I want to share my opinion about trust and integrity. Right? So the same sort of thing. So tell me about a time that you had to deal with a disruptive client, right? And how did you deal with it? That's one way of responding. That could be, I'm glad you asked me that question, because clearly in our industry, we deal with a lot of disruptions, and we deal with, unfortunately, sometimes a lot of very unhappy people. And at first that used to throw me when I was younger, that used to throw me. However, now that what I have learned is that when people are upset, there are three things they want to feel. They want to feel like you are acknowledging them, that you are you are appreciating what they want to say, like they have a platform. So when they feel like you have given them the opportunity to really listen and really hear, then at that point, it can become much easier to transform the interaction to something where people are calmer. And do you see what we're doing here, right? So
Right.
it's your perspective going forward. And so therefore, if they asked, tell me about a time when someone in your office didn't agree with you and was confrontational, and or if some, let's imagine that there was a time in an office and someone didn't agree with you, how would you respond to that? So the response to that might be, you know, as I'm sure you know, there are a lot of times that in our industry where people don't agree with us, right? And I have learned that to my integrity, I'm not going to get defensive, but I will I will hold my ground if I believe, but I will give them the opportunity to feel like they're being heard, because I've learned over the years that when you take a moment to let people feel heard, to let them feel like their opinion matters, then often what you discover is that there's more common ground maybe than you believed originally, and that you're closer to being on the same page. So when there's a conflict, I do not engage. I allow the person to feel like they're being heard, and to move on from there, and to really look for the places where we have the common thread. So you see where you're trying to pull your philosophy. I'm giving you a lot of different ways of doing it. You'll want to find the way that feels like yours, that is a little more concise, right? But do you see how those were very, very similar, even though the questions were slightly different, right?
Right.
And even if I ask you, tell me about a time when you failed at something, and what you did from there. And so that response might go something like, you know, I used to really be afraid of failing. However, through the years, I've learned that even though I of course don't seek out failure, right? I always bring my best to the table. I think I pride myself in that. However, every now and then failures, things that don't always work out the way that you like. And what I have learned is that when I will be open enough and visionary enough to look for what the gifts might be in this, the learning opportunities, the growth opportunities, the opportunity to innovate, very often this failure will be one of the best growth opportunities that in recent experience. So I appreciate it, although I don't intentionally seek them out, but I appreciate that even in failures, I consistently learn throughout my career. So failures are an essential part of growth, I believe.
Okay. And do I have to give them like an example of my own, like how I've experienced it, or?
Yes, if it fits in there without going on a huge tangent, yes, because you'll have approximately an hour, right? Is what my research has shown me.
Yes.
Right? So so if it fits, so give it a whirl. Let me ask you, so if tell me about a time that you worked with, or that you worked with someone who really was confrontational, and how did you handle that?
Well,
So you're going to want to
well,
set the stage first. You're going to want to set the stage first, which is
okay.
meaning like, I used to I used to really try to avoid confrontation. I think, most of us don't enjoy confrontation. However, confrontations, I've learned to handle them so much better. For example, then you might go into your story, right? But you're gonna start with a message, go into the story, which is the example, and then you're gonna pull it all together again. So,
Okay.
right?
Right.
What
Okay.
the moral of that story was.
Okay. So for example, I mean, this doesn't have to be with like a coworker. It could be like trying to. It could be anything, right?
Yes,
Any difficult situation.
any difficult situation, right?
Okay.
And for example, if they ask with a coworker, and the situation that comes to mind was some crazy person at the mall, you might be able to say, actually, the most confrontational situation that I have ever been in is really how I handle all of any situation that proves itself to be confrontational. And in this particular situation, this is what happened. You set the little scene, right? So give it a whirl.
Okay. Okay. In my life, I've always tried to avoid confrontations, whether in school, college, or at the workplace. But sometimes the confrontations are unavoidable,
Mhm.
but it's up to the person how he handles it. My goal has always been to, whenever I do have to, if I'm not able to avoid any confrontations, my goal is to listen to the person, find out what's bothering him or her, and be humble about it. Make sure the situation does not escalate. So for example, when I give examples, do I have to actually tell them the date, the month, and what company I
No.
worked for before?
It's like when you're giving an example, you just really want a scene. For
Okay.
example, so it would look something like this. For example, when I worked security in the mall,
Uh-huh.
I got a call that there was a disruption in one of the stores. When I
Okay.
arrived, there was a very irate young man in the store, causing a major disruption.
Uh-huh.
Here's what I did, right?
Okay.
So it's you're just the need to know scenarios, right? So I allowed that. So I could tell from this approach that that he was very, very frustrated. So my rather than in situations like that, I've learned that you can either react or you can respond. And I pride myself on responding, not reacting. So I could assess the situation, and I could tell that there was a lot of frustration. So the first step was to allow him to feel like he was going to be heard, like someone was going to listen to him and authentically listen to him. So I listened to him. I allowed him to get his point across. And I allowed him basically to lose steam, right? To get it all out. And so it de-escalated the situation. And by listening to him and really then asking questions that would confirm that I had heard him and that I felt that what he was saying mattered, this irate young man went from feeling very disruptive to being more calmer and more even apologetic at one point. blah, blah, blah. Right?
Okay. Okay. So, I'll give you my example,
Yes.
which actually happened at the security too. So it's like, okay, for example, once while I was patrolling at the mall, doing security, um, while I was patrolling, a cashier from inside the store came running to me, and she said there is some people, she wasn't sure who, because she did not interact with them. She came directly to me first. She said there's some people who are arguing in front of her, in front of the store parking lot. I go there, I find out that they're husband and wife arguing. I separate them both. I With them are two kids. One was in his 20s and the other one was a teenager. Um, the parents, I tried to talk to them. They did not want to talk. They did not tell me what's going on, but I separated those both. And then I asked, see, I want to be like, I want to, you know, I don't want it to be too lengthy,
Right,
at the same
exactly.
time.
So some of
So
the
I'm
things,
trying to,
so it's kind of need to know information, and think of
right.
what is the moral of the story? What do you want me to know about you as a result of this story?
Because they basically would want to know how I escalated the situation, which
Right,
means like I separated the husband and wife both,
right. So the first thing,
right?
so you're going to say things like you heard me say some of it. So when I arrived, I could see there was a husband and wife really arguing,
Mhm.
and the situation had really escalated. There were two adult kids in the car, two older kids in the car, whatever you want to say, two older kids who I could tell were really concerned. I assessed the situation, and I first went to the couple to see if I could find out more details and get them to calm down. When they did not respond to that, then I realized that the next step that I had to take was to separate the couple. So I effectively was able to separate them, right? And from there, I did this, I did that, and only mention the kids again if that has something to do with the story, with what you want me to learn about you. So what do you want me to learn about you from the story?
Well, basically, it seemed that the wife came in her car,
Mhm.
and the husband basically followed her because she basically ran away from home and ended up at the mall.
Okay.
So what I did was, I told the oldest son
Mhm.
to drive his mom home,
Okay.
while I told the husband to take his youngest kid and drive home separately, but do not talk to your wife.
Okay.
Let her calm down. Let her calm down. Get your kids. Basically, I was acting like as a therapist in a way as well.
Okay.
Trying to
Okay.
guide them somehow, so even when they get home, they calm down, and where I didn't want, once they get home, I didn't want like the police arriving there. So basically, it seemed like, um, I mean, I gave the wife, because the the wife was very hyper, so I
Mhm.
had to get her a bottle of water so she could cool down.
Mhm.
I got her a chair. This whole incident occurred outside the parking lot.
Mhm.
I got her a chair. She sat down. I gave her water to drink,
Mhm.
and after she calmed down, she thought I would call the cops because of this whole situation. I said if I wanted to call the cops, I would have done that already.
Right.
So which means I don't want to call the cops.
Mhm.
So,
So what do you want to communicate to me about your leadership style, your ability to resolve conflict from that story? Was there a process that you went through mentally? So that you went through and you said, okay, you assessed the situation and this didn't work. So you realized that something else had to be done. So this is how that would reflect in general, not just specific to that situation. So when you're in conflict, the first thing I had to do was assess the situation and make sure no one was in physical danger.
okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
then, so handling a disruptive situation. So if they were to ask you that, a question like that, it could be, clearly in our industry, we are no strangers to conflict. I have always lived by the samurai code that the best warrior is the one that never has to pull out their sword. However, at times conflict is thrust upon us whether we like it or not. So I have found that when those moments come, that the first thing I do is assess the situation and make sure that no one is in physical danger. From there, my priority is de-escalating the situation, whatever that means. And sometimes, for example, there was a situation when I was a security guard in a mall where a husband and wife were fighting and disrupted so to such an extent that the cashier from one of the stores came running out and stopped me and begged me to go over to them. So when I went over to them, I saw that this situation had escalated to such an extent that it needed to be de-escalated. They had 2 kids in the car. It was really, really important that we not let this continue to escalate. So I focus, after I've assessed the situation, no one is in physical harm, my next priority is de-escalating the situation. And in this particular case, I was able to do that by separating the husband and the wife, getting the rather hyper wife to calm down, to sit down, got her something to drink, and came up with a game plan of how to make them both feel heard, both feel respected, and have a vision of their common goal, their bigger goal here, and to move beyond their source of conflict. And that is my formula that I had great results with. Again, it's assess. Is there going to be any physical harm to anyone? How can we de-escalate the situation? And then what action plan can we create going forward? Right?
Okay, right.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Fabulous. Okay. So you have got your work cut out for you over the weekend. I want you to, I'll get you this recording so that you can listen to it and you can prep. And there are plenty of things like on YouTube as well that you can be listening to, that if you will search on YouTube preparing for an FBI interview, I would be consuming a lot of that information for some of the tips and working on what we're doing. And think about what I said, that even though you don't know exactly what they're going to ask you, you can be very sure of the type of questions they're going to ask you. So you can prepare those type of questions and, those type of answers. And then you listen to the question going, which of the answers that I practiced would fit here? Or can I adjust a little bit so that it fits?
Right.
You see what we're doing?
Yes.
Yeah. So there are going to be questions about your behavior. There are going to be questions about conflict. There are going to be questions about a superior asks you to do something that you believe is unethical, what are you going to do? Right? Things like that. Right.
Right.
And then there are the basic things like historically, what do you know about the FBI and that kind of thing. Right.
Okay.
So,
So then,
no, that's okay. Go ahead. Your question.
So like, how many questions do you think total they're gonna ask? I mean, it's gonna be like the time limit is gonna be like an hour. So how many questions could they
Well,
ask?
that's why you want to keep it concise. I mean, I think there are about 25 questions. I'm not positive because things can change, right? But from all the research that I've done is that there are approximately 25 questions. So
Okay.
if you do the math, that's like, you've got 60 minutes. So that's just basically about 2 minutes per question, right?
Okay.
But 2 minutes is a decent amount of time. I mean, granted, they're going to be asking you questions in the middle, some of this, right? So they're going to take up a little bit of that time, but you want to be as concise as you can be with inserting some stories, but really presenting powerfully. Remember that they're looking for leadership. They're those qualities. So those 2 links that I sent you, you're going to want to take a look at and just, really dive in and do your homework, and we'll come back and let you practice a lot more the next time.
Okay.
You see why I wanted us to have 2, right? So that you can come back and really now have it several days. It's great. It's a long weekend and you can really practice, and we'll just nail this.
I hope so too.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, wonderful. I hope, does this feel like this has helped a little bit?
Yes, it has, definitely.
Great. I'm so glad. Okay, so practice, 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 and I will see you on Tuesday.
Okay, great. And in the meantime, if I have any questions, could I like text you or?
Yes, you can reach out to me since it's the weekend and it's also my daughter's birthday this weekend. I may not answer right away, but I will do my best to get back to you.
Oh, well, congrats to her.
Thank you so much. Great.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Talk to you soon.
It's nice talking to you, and hopefully talk to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll talk on Tuesday.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.